A week after I graduated college, I opened my mailbox and I found a letter, a handwritten letter from my 6th grade teacher, who I hadn't spoken to in person in years. She had apparently run into my mom at a couple of different supermarkets, and we had opted to send her a graduation announcement. And the letter that she wrote me was so whimsical, thoughtful, and just generally very provoking to me in a good way that I didn't expect. I've been thinking about this letter for months now, and the idea of writing something thoughtful back has been brewing for months at this point. I graduated in May and it's already almost mid-July. And the other reason I've been thinking about that letter is it made me think about something that I don't think we talk about very much, which is that there are people in our lives that are walking around doing their day-to-day that had a extreme profound impact on us and our worlds, and they have no idea. So today I am writing her back, not because I think I owe her a thank you, which I totally do. She did send me $50 along with her very thoughtful letter. Thank you. But it's also because somewhere along the way, in the last month or two, I realized we are surprisingly bad about letting people know that they made an impact on us, about telling people that they mattered. There's just kind of this assumption that they know, when in reality, how could I have ever told her? We assume that they'll figure it out or that we'll tell them someday. And then someday quietly just became years and years. And now I'm 22 instead of 12. And I realized I don't think I ever told this very wonderful woman that she was my favorite teacher who made the biggest impact on me. So today we are writing her back. So here you see the letter that she wrote me, and her lovely, lovely stationery has a little frog on the top that says Crone Manor, and it's adorable. I really mulled over whether or not to read the letter to you all, just because of, internet context and how personal we can get online with people. But I actually think it is necessary to really understand the full context of why I'm doing this. It reads as follows. Dear Grace, I have recently returned from a lovely sojourn in California to find your graduation announcement and party invitation among the ugly stacks of bins, hence my late and disappointed response. It's a sad thing that I missed the whole celebration, but I send my heartfelt and sincere congratulations. I'm so happy for you and imagine you are off on some marvelous adventure. It's a magnificent world with countless opportunities, no limits. Best of wishes to you. I have no doubt you will be successful and outstanding wherever you go, whatever you do. Go for it, graduate. Fondly, and then her name. Quite the letter to live up to, I know. And if you saw previously, it is clearly written in a fountain ink pen with the most wonderful handwriting you have ever seen. So, with my clearly inferior handwriting, I began trying my best to follow up and give this lovely individual the reply that she deserves. I've always really loved handwritten letters because they're so slow. You can't accidentally send out a handwritten letter the same way you can a text or accidentally give someone a phone call. You have to sit down, think, write, in my case, rewrite, choose your words carefully, and maybe that's why they feel so different, especially in the age of AI. I do a lot of email writing for work. I work a very corporate desk job, and I would be lying if I said I didn't very heavily lean on ChatGPT to do a lot of those writings for me. And as a kid, especially during this time in my life, the time where she was my teacher, 6th grade, when I'd say between the ages of like 8 and 14, I was very big into writing. I was good at it, and like many of us, I pursued things that I was good at: writing, drawing, not sports. I think that I've lost touch with that version of myself, and receiving this letter from a person who is so connected to that childhood version of me really prompted me to get in touch with that version of myself, which I struggled with. I have sped up the writing for you in the video above, but I really did struggle to come up with the right words to say. And when I was looking over the letter afterwards, there were a couple spelling errors that I was really surprised that I made. Here you can also see I got a little jealous of her frog at the top of the stationery, and I decided to draw in a little kraken at the top of mine. My teacher, I'm sure, has no idea what a kraken is. Most people, except for the 180 of you that have decided to stick around so far, even have an inkling, pun intended, of what a kraken is. So if she does end up following up with me, I might have to explain myself. It doesn't even really look much like it's supposed to here, but on the corners of the paper I end up drawing in some tentacle-like ocean design, so hopefully the fact that it's some kind of squid or octopus becomes obvious. Anyway, I digress. I thought I'd talk a little bit about why this teacher in particular was so special to me. She was a part of my life during a time when I was still very much figuring myself out. I was always a weird kid. Not super weird, but I was quiet. I was the kind of kid that was happy when it rained because it meant we didn't have to go outside for recess. I preferred to stay inside and liked quiet reading time, and in some cases even enjoyed playing this game called Wordworm. I don't know if anyone remembers it. Word letters would fall from like the ceiling and you'd have to connect them. Kind of reminiscent of a lot of games that you see today on LinkedIn or on the New York Times, but we had it on our Elmo board. And I would frequently stay in this teacher's classroom during recess instead of playing with other kids, and would just play on the Wordworm board. So that tells you a little bit about where I was at. I was also a very nervous kid. I would say I grew out of this, especially in college and now with work. But at the time, I really struggled with perfectionism, and I have a very distinct memory of getting like a D, like a 6 out of 10 on some kind of spelling test. Great at vocabulary, very poor at spelling. And I just remember like crying to this teacher and telling her like the feeling of failure I had, and her comforting me, but in a stern way that stuck with me. She was kind. She was always a kind teacher, but she also wasn't soft in the way a lot of my teachers had been up to this point. It was a firm kindness that I think I carried with me going into middle school the next year. That, and she also had this sense of whimsy to her that a lot of my teachers up to this point, I think, maybe had in some form, but not in the same way. She taught us a lot about ancient civilizations. I remember learning about Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and writing stories from the perspective of fictional characters that we made up but that lived in that time period. I read a lot of historical fiction in her class, and those ancient history stories especially really stuck with me. This was around the time I was also getting into D&D, so there was a level of crossover that was happening with creating these characters that lived in a world that had rules and designs. I wasn't completely designing my own story from the ground up, but playing in these worlds that had already been created for me on some level offered a sense of freedom and structure that I have now recognized is how I prefer to have a creative outlet, even though now, 10 years later, I have created my whole entire D&D world. I've been DMing for a long time, but I still like to pull from other sources, and having that recognition has really helped me in my creative process. So thank you for that. I also want to talk about just in general, one of the strangest parts of growing up is realizing how many adults have quietly helped to build you up. The teachers, obviously. I think we can all name those couple of teachers who helped us get to where we are today, but also coaches, friends' parents, professors, managers even, have all helped to build us up and get us to this point. People who probably went home that afternoon thinking it was just another Tuesday, that for you became an inciting incident and part of the story of who you are. I've also been thinking a little bit about why we don't necessarily tell people these things. Partially, I think it's because it feels awkward, and sometimes you don't realize the impact they've had on you until it's a little bit too late to bring up naturally. I mean, this is a woman who I have not seen in 10 years. I'm sure there's been some level of keep up on my mom's Facebook or other channels, but I only know her secondhand at this point until, of course, I received this letter, or as she would probably refer to it, a primary source document. But I think there is also a level of feeling like gratitude might be too vulnerable. Maybe we're a little scared that we're going to sound dramatic, or maybe we genuinely believe that there will always be another opportunity, but that's not true. Sometimes people retire, sometimes they move, and sometimes we just lose touch with them. But eventually the moment will pass, so we should seize it. Something else I included in this letter was a Polaroid that I forced my lovely boyfriend to take with me. We've been together for a little over 3 years at this point, and I referenced him several times in this letter, and it felt wrong to not put a face to the name. So I had the Insta360 Instax Mini. I have an Insta360 camera. That doesn't get confusing ever. Not true. So I included this little Polaroid picture of us. But at this point, I'm sure you are all also dying to know what the letter I wrote actually says. I'm going to leave some details out just for safety and obscurity, but I will read it. Dear Miss Teacher's Name, first, I must apologize for my late response. Second, I must apologize for my horrible handwriting. I'm afraid you put me to shame. I am also very impressed with your stationery and am a little jealous. I had to design my own. I hope you are doing well and that you had a splendid sojourn, a term which I had to Google, still teaching me things even now. I also had to really mull over how to address this letter, as you signed yours, her first name, but calling you by anything other than Miss, her last name, just feels plain wrong. Thank you for the gift money. The well wishes people have been giving me post-graduation have helped to soften the fact that I am now a real adult. Blah. Currently, I have taken up residence at a civil engineering firm. I work there primarily sitting at a very publicly located desk for 40-ish hours a week, and wonder about how I ended up there. It is not all doom and gloom, though. I learn new skills and things about myself every day, and occasionally get to travel to universities for career fairs. I work in recruiting. Still, I have a nebula of ideas swirling above me, demanding my attention and asking that I stop paying so much mind to Excel spreadsheets. And other things I'd rather not think of in my limited free time. Really, my passion lies in creative projects. I make videos on YouTube, think about designing media brands, public speaking, podcasting, and art in all its many forms. I hate to play into the stereotype of my generation, but I just don't think working for someone else will ever really be my cup of tea. Still, there is still much time to figure this all out. My lovely boyfriend reminds me daily that these things take time. He's a very present person, which I need more of in my life. He makes me happy, and we met working at Starbucks together, which means there is very little to go through in terms of more difficult communication and conversation. I have told him and others that you are my favorite teacher. Don't let it get to your head, but none of the others had quite the same impact and touch. My best guess was that it was your ability to foster a sense of whimsy in others. Even now, your thoughtful stationery and ink pen have encouraged me to write you a letter that is much too long. Please do not be afraid to write back, but please feel no pressure either. I am sure you are a busy woman with many, many sojourns ahead. With much love, Grace. So, there it is, signed and sealed. With a wax seal, nonetheless. I thought this one deserved a little bit more attention. I hope she enjoys. This video idea was sparked because of a letter that my teacher wrote me. And even though that was where it originated, I think there is something more to be said and talked about here. It's about all of the people who had an impact on us and quietly shaped us. Those people whose name pops into our head every now and again, and we wonder what they're doing and what they're up to. The people we still quote, the people we still think about, and especially those people who probably have no idea we even think about them. Those are the people who unknowingly became part of who we are. I don't know exactly what this letter will mean to her. It might not mean much. She had a lot of students, and I'm sure there's some she keeps in contact with. But I do know what hers meant to me. And I think that if someone changed your life, they deserve to know. Appreciation shouldn't be something that you save for until it's too late. So if you have someone in your life that you want to tell how much they mean to you, take this video as inspiration to do just that. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Seriously, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you subscribed. We are trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of September or the end of Q3, and every little bit counts. So if you would consider subscribing, even just until the end of September so I hit that goal, I would really appreciate it. And if you like the slower, more reflective type of vibe of this video, you might also enjoy my podcast, Rich in Theory. It's where I get to explore ideas like this a little bit more deeply. You can find it on Spotify and also on Substack. And if you're watching this in the far future, we are working on getting it on Apple Podcasts, so maybe there as well. I've been discovering so many incredible other small creators lately, and I thought it would be fun at the end of every video to share one of them. So today's creator shout out goes to Cari Quinteros. I actually know Karina, and she makes these really lovely videos about her daily life that are entirely in Spanish. So if you're a Spanish speaker or maybe you're learning Spanish, they are a great way to practice. I watch them entirely in subtitles and I feel like I've picked up a couple things. I genuinely think that she deserves way more attention than she's getting, and the quality of her videos is astounding. So I will leave a link in the description and you should go check her out. And if you're a small creator yourself, leave a comment down below. I'd love to discover more channels, and you might end up being featured in a future video. Let's build this small creator community together. All right, that's all for me. Don't forget that you are always becoming and are always a work in progress. I will see you next Sunday. Goodbye.